Welcome in, everybody. Happy to be back here talking to you guys about the 2025 Green Bay Packers NFL season preview, number 4 team on our power rankings. And look, you see the guy that's there on the left, and a big reason why I do have a lot of belief in what this team can be in 2025. This is a fun time to talk about a team, in my opinion, as far as the team direction is concerned, that is pushing the chips in. And look, you trade 2 first-round picks, you give a guy a market resetting contract as far as non-quarterbacks are concerned. That is a win now move if I've ever seen one. And Micah Parsons is a player worthy of a win now move of that nature, in my personal opinion, for what he can provide for the Packers as an alpha level pass rusher. But we'll talk more about that in a bit. First, the quarterback. I should say first the coach in the front office. I think Matt LaFleur, again, excellent head coach in the National Football League. It's an A grade for me. You look at the consistent offensive advantage that he gives his team. The fact that last year he could create, an offense out of Malik Willis and I hurt Jordan Love. It did not matter. He was able to craft it because of his real ability as an offensive mind. And I think that there is something to be said for his full ability as a leader, I should say, to be able to continue to have this team be the successful, team on a consistent basis that it is. And from that perspective, obviously, the front office has a hand in that, in being able to draft well along this offensive line. They have specific markers for how they want to draft certain prospects. They got thresholds that guys have to meet. And it is a standardized measure that has continued to serve them well in identifying prospects that will help them. And it certainly has paid off for where they currently are in the National Football League, and now ready to try and take that next step and go after a Super Bowl. So with that being said, let's get to the offseason review. So as far as this offseason is concerned, had a few departures ultimately. Andre Dillard moves on from the tackle position. Never really was able to make a massive impact as far as that aspect is concerned, but did end up moving on as well. Then Josh Myers also moves on, a center, a guy that never really was able to establish himself after being a pretty high pick for the Packers as well. TJ Sladen moves on from the defensive line room, and then they lose 2 cornerbacks in Jair Alexander, who's obviously been a star mainstay for their secondary for years, but unfortunately has had some injury issues, specifically in the last 2 years. And then Eric Stokes, who had his struggles as well. And then A.J. Dillon, power big back, that ends up moving on as well. Ultimately, as far as their additions, Aaron Banks from the San Francisco 49ers adding to the interior offensive line room. Nate Hobbs trying to help to add to the cornerback room, and specifically from a depth purpose especially. And then finally, Mr. Micah MFN Parsons to this edge group, which is spectacular. Again, I've talked about this. The defense needs an alpha level pass rusher. He provides it. I'll talk about it even more as far as the roster is concerned. And then we'll talk about a little bit more as far as what's got me excited. As far as the draft is concerned, went out there and got Matthew Golden, which is an interesting piece, in my opinion, to add to this wide receiver room. I'll talk about his fit later on. But a good prospect, more of a second round guy than a first round guy for me. But ultimately, what you saw in his breakout year out of Texas has the ability to get deep. I think that'll help a lot as far as this Packers offense. Anthony Belton, tackle, which will end up factoring in, we'll certainly see, but somebody that certainly can develop into a starter. Savion Williams adding to the edge group as well. Same thing for Savion Williams, wide receiver out of TCU, to add to that depth, which at this point is a really deep room. And then Barron Sorrell adding to the defensive end depth, specifically as far as this team is concerned. And then Warren Brinson added to the D tackle room as well. So with that being said, as far as expectations, it's pretty simple. You do a move like Micah Parsons trade, you are trying to win the Super Bowl. Point blank period. That's where your expectations are, is to play in the last game of the season. I think that's a fair place to put those expectations, because they have pushed those chips all in, and they got the talent to do so. So there you go. With that being said, let's talk about the quarterback position talent that they have. Jordan Love. Some are going to look at my quarterback ranking for Jordan Love as being 8th in the National Football League and say that's a little bit too high for a guy that only has 1 year of the top level production. And I understand why, but when you watch him on tape, it really is the trick shots that stand out to me. The way in which he's able to avoid pressure, even leaning back and be able to get the ball off. And yes, sometimes he does get in trouble for doing it when he doesn't necessarily need to. But I think it is a big deal to at least have that in your tool bag to go to, because a lot of things as far as quarterback position is and an ability to elevate the surroundings around you, whether it's an offensive line or it's block as far as offensive system, is the ability to create those trick shots. And he brings that to the table, in my personal opinion. And so I like what Jordan Love has. Like I said, he has the arm talent to get the ball to all three levels. I think he's improving as far as his decision making is concerned. Maybe a little bit of a step back in that nature last year, but I expect it to be better. And one big thing about the entire numbers last year was that he was hurt for most of the season. Obviously, the opening night game, he ends up getting hurt and missing some time. And then secondarily, he ends up hurting his groin later on in the season, and that affects him, in my opinion, and makes LaFleur a little bit more wary to throw the ball on a consistent basis with him. So I think that he'll be healthy, and I think he'll be able to bounce back with the weapons around him, and it'll make a lot of sense in the way in which this offense ends up looking. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get to the roster on offense. As far as the offense is concerned, I think it's an interesting one certainly to look at as far as where you're trying to attack and how they want to attack. Again, LaFleur, it starts up front. Rasheed Walker, Aaron Banks, Elton Jenkins, Sean Ryan, and Zach Tom. Zach Tom got an extension, rightfully so, one of the better right tackles in the National Football League. Jordan Morgan and off the bench is going to be very fascinating. I thought, him coming out of Arizona had a chance to start. Is he going to take over that left tackle job? Seems a little bit unlikely. Is he going to get one of the guard spots? Also going to be interesting to watch. And then Darian Kinnard also got traded to the Green Bay Packers during, at the end of training camp, as well as something to watch to see if he ends up getting in the game. But again, Aaron Banks comes over to try and secure one guard spot, and we'll see what the rest ends up looking like outside of Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins at center and right tackle, of course. Tight end room. Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave. Musgrave actually taken a round earlier than Tucker Kraft, funny enough. But Tucker Kraft is better, in my opinion, and we'll talk about him in a bit. But I do like that combination. Malik Willis still behind Jordan Love. Again, came in admirably and filled in last year. Emmanuel Wilson is probably below average backup by backup standards behind Josh Jacobs, but Josh Jacobs is so good. Hopefully, you hope he's out there, obviously, on all three downs and being able to make a real impact as far as that is concerned. Jaden Reed is currently dealing with a little bit of an issue. It sounds like he may have a chance to play week one. We'll certainly see. If not, it'll be more opportunity for Wicks and Williams. Christian Watson is currently on the injured list, which takes me to Matthew Golden, who, in my opinion, was brought in to be injury insurance and really an upgrade as far as what Christian Watson brings to the table to be able to be a consistent deep threat for this offense. And again, I think that's the key. Is you see also Romeo Doubs, a guy that plays a lot of snaps for them and can be able to, win at the short intermediate areas and still create some yards after the catch. The theme for this entire weapon group, in my opinion, is just by committee. One game it could be KRAFT, one game it could be Golden, one game it could be Reed or Dobbs, I'll say, or Josh Jacobs. It just really depends on where they think your defense is weakest and trying to distribute the ball accordingly, which Jordan Love, in my opinion, has the ability to do. So the combination of those things, I think, sets them up pretty well, and I give it an A grade as far as offense is concerned. Let's flip to the defense. As far as the defense, this defense has gotten a massive upgrade, of course, with that man, number one, Micah Parsons, adding to this edge room with Rashawn Gary, with Lucas Van Ness and Kingsley Enabarge. It's going to be fascinating to watch what this edge room ends up looking like ultimately this upcoming season. I think quietly also an incredibly key addition as well. Devontae Wyatt, I shouldn't say key addition, but the fact that, what this room looks like. Devontae Wyatt, Kobe Wooden, Nazio Stackhouse is a UDFA as well, Warren Brinson. Can you get enough run stuffing from that interior defensive line for it to really make sense? And I think the way in which Jeff Hafley is going to use this second level, ultimately the pass rush outside of that will end up being there, obviously with the immediate ability of Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons to win one-on-one matchups. So I think that there's enough on this team, especially along the front, for it to be really dynamic. And speaking of which, Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper at the linebacker duo. Quay Walker, incredibly athletic, run and hit linebacker that you don't necessarily want doing a lot of thinking, a lot of zone drops, etc. You can do a little bit of it, but not too much. Edgerrin Cooper, in my opinion, really emerged as a green dot for this offense, and Isaiah McDuffie, I should say, as a useful backup as well. We'll see about Tyron Hopper and where his role may end up lying too for this upcoming season. Safety room, Xavier McKinney came over, all pro out of the Giants. I mean, Giants, apparently, if you leave the Giants, then you become all pro in the next stop. That's just kind of how it goes. But shout out to Xavier McKinney. Excellent season taking the ball away. And maybe not that number of picks, but his ball skills suggest that he can repeat that level of production as well. Uh, and then the cornerback room, which is shaky. Javon Ballard in the nickel, Keelan Nixon and Nate Hobbs. It gets real spooky real fast. Carrington Valentine and Bo Melton don't give you all the warm and fuzzies behind them as well. So you're talking about a cornerback room that is a real question mark and ultimately puts them down a little bit at a B plus as far as or I should, yeah, a B plus as far as the defense is concerned. A for the Packers offense, and so we'll see. Again, Micah Parsons, in my opinion, took him from more of a kind of a C plus to a B plus, maybe a B minus to a B plus. But now they have a fighting chance, in my opinion, in the playoffs, and I think they got a shot. So with that being said, let's get to my first breakout. So my breakout player is Mr. Tucker KRAFT, and he has been a favorite fantasy target of mine. I believe that Jordan Love's passing volume is going to be significantly up, and I think that he's very comfortable throwing the ball over the middle of the field to tight windows with instruction. I think Tucker KRAFT fits that bill very effectively. He's a really good athlete for the position. He understands how to sit down his zone, understands how to run routes, and then he also can create yards after the catch with the ability to really break tackles. And I think the combination of all of those things plus the environment will put him in a position in which he can really produce for this offense, and a guy that can finish as a top 8 tight end this upcoming season, if not higher, based on how things end up going. And I like the chemistry between him and Jordan Love. They got a nice thing going, and I think they want to try and improve and continue that this upcoming season when Jordan Love has to throw the ball a little bit more. But hey, you talk about, again, kind of what this receiving core looks like. They got a lot of B to B plus level players. They got guys that can go down deep now in Matthew Golden and Christian Watson when healthy. They got the underneath stuff with Reed and certainly Dobbs. And then now Tucker KRAFT and where he fits in for this tight end room. Doesn't necessarily have to do all of the responsibilities given the fact that Musgrave is still there, but I like what he can be asked to do, certainly on a consistent basis. So while that's my breakout player, let's talk about what's got me excited to watch this team. So look, we got a cut up of sacks last year from EDGERRIN Cooper, Quay Walker, and then also Micah Parsons. And you'll see a kind of a consistent theme about EDGERRIN Cooper and Quay Walker being sit on blitzes to be able then to drop out into some fire zones as far as the defensive linemen are concerned, or a double mug look where you end up sending, one linebacker, you drop the defensive end on the other side, and then you end up overloading accordingly as well. Then they get the double mug looked and then run a stunt off of that, which is just disgusting to do to an offensive line. And then you can have even the cover sacks where, hey, things are covered up and we'll go ahead and clean it up too. Micah Parsons will be able to take advantage of all of these situations as well. People will be like, well, is he going to get the chance to because of the run? No, he will. Don't worry. And look, you can line him up as a 3 tech and he'll beat the guard. You can, again, double mug him and he'll be able to create chaos as far as that's concerned. Or you can have him single mug up, look up, head up on the center, and you got to make sure you fan out as far as the other players are concerned. One-on-one with the center is Micah Parsons, and that's just completely unfair. He will beat that center almost all the time unless he's facing Creed Humphrey. But that was an impressive rep, and those are the types of things that you're going to expect to see from Jeff Hafley, to weaponize the athleticism and the blitz ability and the get after passer chops as far as Quay Walker, EDGERRIN Cooper, and Micah Parsons are concerned. And watching the second level with those 3 players specifically is going to be absolutely so fun to watch. I cannot wait. So let's go ahead and get to the concern. My concern is it lies within this cornerback room. And here I have pictured Jair Alexander, who, again, has missed a good portion of games the last 2 years, but still has continued to be a star for this defense when out there. And now you're talking about, hey, man, he's now gone, obviously, to the Ravens. Are they going to be able to replace him and everybody else that they already have been looking to replace? It's going to be a little tough. I think that this cornerback room can give some stuff up. I think the safety room is still very good for the Packers. Can they find their way of just getting somebody to pop as far as the cornerback room is concerned? It doesn't have to be anybody to be an all-pro or anything, just somebody to be better as far as Nixon or Hobbs or Bo Milton is concerned. And that would elevate this group significantly. And that's why they'll only be plus, because of those concerns that I really do have at that cornerback position and a little bit of the defensive line, but mostly cornerback. So as far as the predictions are concerned, look, in my bold prediction for the Green Bay Packers this year is that they make the playoffs. I was already teetering on the edge of picking them to. It was between them and the Rams, to be perfectly honest with you guys. And the Rams, again, pending that Stafford back, could, you definitely get to the Super Bowl. I still believe that wholeheartedly. But that Micah Parsons trade just put it over the top for me again. This team had two real holes on defense. Hey, how was the cornerback room going to work out? How was the pass rush really going to get injected and take it to a different level? One of those things that's significantly harder to fix as far as being able to run out there an alpha level pass rusher that immediately makes your rush with forward credible. I think that changes the complexity of this defense, particularly trying to get off the field. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. I do have them making Super Bowl and going 12-5 and winning the NFC North. Thank you guys so much for making it to this video. Please like this video on the Packers as well. Go to at DMW Sports here on the channel and subscribe at DM Sports on Twitter and TikTok. Please do follow there as well. And then Instagram at SportsTeamW. Thank you guys so much. Hope you have a great day. Peace out.